If you've been thinking about, should I be renting a house or should I buy one, and you're getting a lot of confusing information, I'm going to break all of that down today in this video. I'm going to share with you a national perspective and also a local perspective here as someone that lives in Greenville, South Carolina. Hi, I'm Evan Whaley, your favorite Greenville realtor. Let's get into this from a national and from a Greenville perspective so that you can get an understanding of, does it make sense to rent or does it make sense to buy? Let's go ahead and look at some data so that we have some universal truths before we get into all of this. The first thing we want to look at in this graph is we see that rent prices are always on a large scale. When we look at it over a period of time, they're going up. Same thing with owning a home. Prices of homes are continuously going up over a long period of time. The next thing, let's talk about timing a market. Most people that are really successful investors always say you're going to look at something over a long-term value, and trying to time a market is really just a fool's errand, and you're going to get lucky in best case scenario. None of us have a crystal ball to say this is what's going to happen. If we did, we all would make the best financial decisions and we would always time things perfectly, but unfortunately we can't do that. Another thing that we want to keep in mind is that everything that I'm using as numbers is built for a model. All of this stuff can change, interest rates can change, home prices can change, etc. very quickly. So just keep in mind, this is a model based on just numbers, just to give you an idea to build a story. And the last thing, keep in mind, real estate is hyper local. So the rental prices, the home prices, all this stuff could be totally different than your market. Talking to a local person in your market is going to be super helpful. Now that we have all that on the table, let's actually just go ahead and talk about the 5 reasons why it does not make sense for you to buy a home. And if you fit into one of these 5, of course, I'd love for you to stick around in the video, but this should give you your answer, and buying a home is not the right thing for you, at least right now. Number 1, if you don't have some savings in your savings account right now, it is not a good time for you to buy a home. Even though there's options out there for a 0% down loan, if you don't have any savings whatsoever after that loan is closed, then you could put yourself in a really bad position should there need to be any repairs or you have any kind of life hardship. Make sure you have some savings. I typically recommend having at least 3 months of your expenses saved in the bank and make sure that you can take care of anything for a rainy day. If you don't have this, don't buy a home. Number 2, if you're in a job situation where maybe you say, I don't like this job whatsoever, or they're actually laying people off, or whatever the case may be, buying a home might not be the right thing for you at all, because you're going to have a lot of life situations, a lot of stress, and your salary could potentially change, which changes the entire equation for you. So renting might be a better option for you right now. Number 3, again, that kind of goes back to the other one. Like if you have a job situation where you potentially might be getting a new job, there might be an upcoming move. So that's something else that factor in. If you're going to move for any reason within the next 3 to 5 years, buying a home probably is not the right fit for you unless you have a long-term plan of what you want to do with that house to help you build money and income. And I'll talk about that in future videos. I love investing in real estate, but this isn't the video for that right now. Number 4, if you can't find that house that you could live in for at least 5 years, it would fit all of your needs and it fits within your monthly budget right now, then it's not a good time for you to buy a house. You probably should save more or look for other opportunities for additional income before purchasing a home. Number 5, if you have any instability in any of the big things in your life, like family, relationships, job, it's probably not the right time for you to be evaluating such a big purchase right now, and it might make more sense for you just to continue renting. So if you don't fit into one of those 5, let's go ahead, let's do the math. Let's talk about, should you rent or should you buy? When we're evaluating this, I think it really depends on what is the rent cost in your local market versus what does it cost to buy a home that would actually be comparable. If we look at rent.com, they say nationally, renters are paying $1,995 for their rental. That is for a little under a 900 square foot apartment on average is what they're getting for that price. If we look at a single family detached unit, the average price was $2,395 a month nationally. Of course, some places are significantly higher, some are significantly lower. Just keep in mind national data here. So we talked about the renting side. Now let's go over to owning. Let's kind of look at your average down payment. I actually looked and ran these numbers. If someone were to use a 3.5% down loan, there's so many different options when you get into lending, and it's really good to talk to somebody in your local market. Let's just use 3.5% down just as our starting number. If we do that and we look on a national perspective, right now the median price home is right around $396,000. You do your 3.5% down, you pay your closing costs, all of that, and we look at what the average price is according to bank rate. Now again, all this stuff is different because people have different tax rates, insurance, all that stuff, but their number was a little over $3,000 a month. So when we compare that to a single family rental, someone's looking at spending about $600 per month nationally compared to renting versus buying when we're looking at single family homes. $600 a month can be pretty significant for someone's monthly budget. A big question that you need to ask yourself is, right now, could I afford to pay $600 extra per month? The answer to that is no, and you need to pay off more debt or you need to accumulate more savings. I think it's okay to continue to rent. If the answer to that is, I want to buy a house, but maybe I just want to wait a little while. I know I'm ready, I'm prepared, but maybe I should just wait for rates to go down. I don't know that that's necessarily the best idea. Since we talked about national, let's quickly go through Greenville. So we look at Greenville, we've got a median price of $300,000. What Bankrate is saying your monthly payment would be is a little under $2,300 per month. We look at a single family rental, right now, that's averaging about $2,000 to $2,100 a month. So what we're talking about is a difference between $200 to $300 per month. Again, significant amount of money, and that's something that you need to decide for yourself if that's something you're comfortable with. So if this were an easy math equation, we just look right now at this point, it's cheaper to rent, and a lot of times it is cheaper to rent than buying a home. We just look at it from a monthly cost standpoint. Where it becomes a lot more affordable and a lot more advantageous to own a home is the fact that you're getting appreciation every year. Historically, real estate is going to go up 3% every single year in value. Number two, rent prices, if we've looked at the last decade, are going up 3.6% year over year. So rent is getting more expensive. You're accumulating and building equity with your house. So that's where it starts to balance out a little more. The other thing is, when you own a home, you're paying down the principal balance. So not only are you paying the interest to the mortgage insurance company, you're also building in some additional equity. So all of that is adding to your overall net worth and to your overall savings. So when we want to talk about math, there's this website called nerdwallet.com, which would be awesome, and I highly recommend you checking it out and running the numbers in your local market. I just did the national average here to give you an idea. Right now, if you were to buy a house and you stayed in it for 6 years, that would be your break-even point. Meaning if you stayed in it for 6 years, it makes more sense to own a home that's factoring in repairs and everything than it would to rent. Once you get to year 7 and even further, that's when it becomes really advantageous to be a homeowner compared to a renter in that period. And that's nationally. You can see that graph there on the screen just to kind of break that down. One of the things that I thought was absolutely crazy is if we look at 30 years of renting nationally, you'd spend almost $1.3 million in rent, which I just found to be absolutely baffling. Anyways, so let's break this down for Greenville as well. In Greenville, because the numbers are a lot closer between the rent and the purchase price of a home, it's actually 4 years is your break-even point. I generally recommend you want to stay in a house for a minimum of 5 to 7 years anyways, unless again you have an exit plan of turning that into an investment property or doing something else with it that's going to create income for it to make more financial sense than being a renter. The last part of this equation, let's talk about all these things add up. You know, you want to buy a house. Well, I hear rates may be coming down. Should I wait? It depends. One of the good things is if rates do go down, of course, you come in with a lower monthly payment. One of the bad things is it created a massive flood of buyers to the market. Buyers in that market had to do things that they typically weren't as comfortable with because there was so much competition and there was a lack of supply and there was a high level of demand. What happened is home prices shot up like crazy. Another thing that happened is buyers were waiving things like inspections. They were waiving appraisals, meaning they had to bring more cash to close on the house than what the appraiser said it was worth. They were also not getting any closing costs paid for. So the positives were they bought a house in a great market where prices continue to go up depending on when they bought. And the second thing is, of course, they locked in a really good interest rate, which made their monthly payments very affordable. So if you are someone who's out there and you don't want to deal with the potential of all of those issues, or you want to come in a little bit less cash out of pocket, because right now sellers are willing to negotiate with buyers and allow them to pay for things like closing costs. All those things are really favorable for a buyer right now. When we look at the fact that you can refinance, now I looked at Freddie Mac's website, they said the average cost to refinance a loan was $5,000. Of course, some are lower, some are higher. You would want to talk to the lender that you work with about this, but just get an idea of that to see, because historically, home prices go up 3% per year. I use Greenville's median price of $300,000 just because it's super easy to do the math on that. And we're looking at $9,000 a year. We're looking at $750 a month. I'm making this very simple for a reason. But after 7 months, it makes more sense to have just been a homeowner. You can refinance for the $5,000 and you would have won in that equation because your home equity is going to be higher than the amount of money that you just spent to do your refinance. So I don't think waiting for rates to potentially go down in most cases makes a lot of sense, because that time payoff just isn't enough and there's no guarantee that rates go down. What if they go up and home prices go up? Then your payment just went even higher. If they stay the same and home prices go up, you won again. If home prices start going up in value and then rates go down, the good news is you can always refinance your loan. There's no guarantee of what's going to happen. No one has a crystal ball. The economy, the world, it is so unpredictable. So it's really hard to say definitively what's going to happen with any of this. All we know is what's happening right now. And when we look at home prices, they are stable. They're going up in value nationally, and especially here in Greenville, they're continuing to go up because there's just not enough supply for the homeowners out there. So I don't see a big benefit if everything else that we talked about in this video checks out for you waiting for something like that. I hope this video is helpful. I know there's so much to cover. There's so many different things when you're talking about should you rent versus should you buy, and it's so specific to the person. If you've got questions and you want help evaluating this situation, feel free to reach out to me. All my contact information is down below.